Chapter 1. Lizzie Peterson pushed open the door of Caring Paws, the animal shelter where she volunteered. "Lizzie, is it already 3 o'clock?" The director, Miss Dobbins, looked tired and distracted. "We have been so busy here today." "Actually, it's only 2:30, Lizzie said. "I'm a little early." She wrote her name on the volunteer sign-in sheet and checked the wipe-off board for new names. "Who's Skipper?" she asked, when she saw the name written in red, the color for dogs. "And what does that mean, Skipper and Company?" It was always exciting when a new animal arrived at the shelter. Maybe one of the new dogs would be her family's next foster puppy. Lizzie had been volunteering at Caring Paws for 2 months. She came every Saturday afternoon. She loved being around all the dogs and cats and the people who cared for them. Caring Paws was a place for animals that needed homes. Some were strays who had been found on country roads or in parking lots. The shelter staff tried hard to find their owners. Other cats or dogs had been abandoned, left near a farm or on someone's porch, and some were beloved pets that the owners had to give up. Mrs. Dobbins did her best to help find the perfect home for every animal that came to Caring Paws. But while they waited to find their forever families, the animals needed exercise, love, and care. That was where the volunteers came in. There was always work to do, answering the phone, cleaning cages, feeding animals, giving them baths. Because Lizzie was only in 4th grade, she didn't do any of those jobs. She got to do the best job of all, exercising the dogs. Lizzie was crazy about dogs. She loved to play with them, read about them, make up stories about them, and learn everything she could about them. She and her younger brother Charles wanted their own dog more than anything, and they had been bugging their parents about it for years. Lizzie's dad loved dogs too, but Mom was more of a cat person. So far, both parents agreed that the family was not ready for a full-time dog. That was partly because of Lizzie's other brother, the Bean. His real name was Adam, but nobody ever called him that. He was just a toddler, and keeping him out of trouble took up a lot of everyone's energy. The funny thing was that the Bean loved dogs too. He loved them so much that he liked to pretend that he was one. He crawled around during meal times, barked at visitors, and played with dog toys more than kid toys. "The Bean is enough dog for now," Mom always said. She liked to point out that the Bean did not shed fur all over the place, make messes, or chew up their shoes the way a real dog would. For now, Lizzie and Charles had to be happy with part-time puppies. The Petersons had become a foster family, taking care of puppies until the perfect home could be found for each one. So far, they had fostered 4 different puppies. Goldie, the first puppy, was a happy golden retriever who had belonged to a family whose house had burned down. Mr. Peterson was a fireman, and he brought her home after putting out the fire. Goldie ended up living next door with Sammy, Charles's best friend. She was the perfect pal for Sammy's older dog, Rufus. The next pup was Snowball, a fluffy little West Highland white terrier. He had a lot of energy and a big personality. The Petersons found Snowball an excellent home with a nice lady named Mrs. Peabody. Shadow, the serious black lab puppy, came next. With help from Maria, her new best friend, Lizzie found him a home with a family that would train him to be a guide dog for a blind person. Then there was Rascal, the wild child. He was an energetic Jack Russell Terrier who could not learn to behave well enough to live with a regular family in a regular house. Rascal had ended up living at a riding stable where he didn't need to have indoor manners. It was the perfect home for a rascally dog. Lizzie, Charles, and the Bean had loved every one of those puppies. They had hoped and wished that they would be able to keep each one themselves. But they knew that the puppies had found just the right homes, and that was the most important thing. It had been quite a while since the Petersons had fostered a puppy. That was why Lizzie had started volunteering at Caring Paws in the first place. She missed being around dogs. Now at the shelter, Lizzie could hardly wait to meet the newest dog, Skipper. "Is Skipper a boy or a girl?" she asked Ms. Dobbins. Ms. Dobbins paused. "She's a girl," she answered after a moment, "and here's the thing. We are so full right now that I just don't know where I'm going to put her. I've already got 2 dogs doubled up in Kennel 5. We have more than a dozen dogs looking for homes. There is just no room here, and Skipper really needs more space to be comfortable. We need a foster family for her." Maybe my family can take her, Lizzie suggested. Is Skipper a puppy? Well, no, said Miss Dobbins, but... It doesn't matter, Lizzie interrupted. If she needs a home and there's no room here, I'm sure we can take care of her for a while. I'll just have to convince my mom. She's used to fostering puppies, so talking her into a dog should be a breeze. As they were talking, Miss Dobbins was leading the way down the hall to the dog room. She and Lizzie walked past the exam room where a visiting vet checked out every animal that came into the shelter. They passed the tub room, the scene of many soapy, hairy messes, and then there were the two cat rooms. Lizzie peeked in. She could see all kinds of cats and kittens. They were napping and climbing and cleaning themselves. As soon as they approached the dog room, Lizzie could hear dogs barking. It was funny. Sometimes only one dog was barking in the dog room, but other times all the dogs started barking at once, as if they were kids in a classroom yelling, "Call on me! Call on me!" Miss Dobbins pushed open the door to the dog room. Inside, there were 10 kennels made of metal fencing that stretched from the floor to the ceiling. Each kennel had a comfy bed, a sign on the outside with the dog's name, and directions about feeding and walking. Each kennel also had a doggy door that could open to a fenced area outdoors, so the dogs could get outside on their own when there wasn't a volunteer to walk them. The room was warm and bright, and there were hand-painted number signs for each kennel. Lizzie knew that animal shelters could be sad places, and she was glad that Caring Paws always seemed cheerful and homey. Miss Dobbins pointed at kennel number 1, the cage nearest the door. "That's Skipper," she said, "and now you know what and company means." There in the kennel was a brown and tan dog with a silky soft coat. Her big cocoa brown eyes were shiny, and she had ears that stood straight up. Right now, they were pointed toward the door, as if Skipper had radar. But Skipper didn't jump to her feet the way most dogs did when you came into the kennels. She just stayed where she was, looking up at Ms. Dobbins. Skipper wondered who the new person was. Could she trust her? Should she stand up and show off her treasure? She decided it was safe. When Skipper moved, Lizzie gasped. "Oh my," she said, when she saw what was curled up in the curve of Skipper's belly. 3 puppies. 3 tiny brown and tan puppies, and they were just beginning to squirm themselves awake.